There are right ways and there are wrong ways to cook a turkey. And if you're gonna do one on the smoker, make sure you know how to spatchcock it and brine it. Welcome back to Sawbones Barbecue. I'm Old Sawbones. With me on the camera, as always, is FT. Today we're doing Thanksgiving turkey. Many ways to do a turkey. Some people like to fry it. I personally am not a fan of going to the burn unit, so I don't do that. Some people do it old school with stuffing and tie up the legs and throw it in the oven, and then they complain about dry meat on the breasts.
Oh, it's just a little dry, it's fine.
That's a holiday tradition everybody loves to hate. So if you're gonna smoke a turkey, which is a great way to do it, to prep it, you need to know how to spatchcock it and brine it. Spatchcocking is where we're gonna remove the spine and lay the bird out flat, which has a lot of advantages. It cooks a lot faster, it cooks a lot more evenly, and it comes out looking really, really nice. So you take the whole bird and flip it over so it's breast side down. This one's about a 15 pounder, so pretty good size. And then you wanna get some heavy duty poultry shears to remove the spine. Come along the sides and make some cuts. Now I'm gonna come up the other side. All right. Helps to have a knife handy while you're doing the cutting so you can help the scissors out a little bit, complete the trim. So we basically just cut with the scissors up both sides of the spine, and then just take the spine right out and toss that. And then the next move is to turn it over and crack the breastbone right down the middle so the bird will lay out flat. So this is how it's gonna sit when we're all done. We want it to lay out nice and flat. And then the thighs kind of kick out to the side like that. I like to clean it up a little bit though after it's been flattened and just take some of the little excess bits and little rib leftovers and whatnot and kind of trim the back a little bit. So when it's all said and done, that's kind of our final look. The thighs are basically hanging on only by skin, and that's normal. It's a little bit floppy, so you have to get two really big spatulas or a pizza peel or something like that when you're positioning it and moving it. But that's how it is supposed to be. So you kind of turn it in like that, and you got everything laid out flat, and that's how we spatchcock it. All right, for today's cook, we're gonna do a recipe that I got from atbbq.com. This is a Chef Tom recipe for honey chipotle turkey, which I've never tried before. So we're gonna use tried and true techniques, but try Chef Tom's recipe and see if it's any good. So for the brine, they recommend this brisket bath brine concentrate. I've never used a beef brine on turkey before, but this one is ancho and chipotle chilies, which is what the recipe calls for. So we're gonna put our brine in the bucket. This bucket is a brining bucket. All that means is that it's got a lid which will hold the bird submerged. So inside the bucket, we slide this in and there's little notches where you can turn it to the side and it creates a little lid that holds the bird submerged. Other than that, you could do it with any old 5-gallon bucket. You don't have to have this, but it's just a nicety because you don't have to weight the bird down with something to keep it under the liquid. So we're gonna put our liquids into the tub. This stuff is really, really thick, and then you water it down 5 to 1. So for every 1 jar of brine we put in there, we're gonna put 5 fills of water.
1.
Fire 2.
3.
3. 4.
5.
That's 5. It's better to spatchcock it ahead of time because the bird will settle down and submerge a little bit better. If you try to put the whole turkey in there, you're gonna need almost twice as much brining liquid to get it covered. So I spatchcock it first, make the brine, and then stick the bird in last. All right, so I've got it fully submerged, and that brought our fluid level up to about here. And now with this lid, we can put it in until the lid is just under the liquid and then lock it in with those little notches. So now the turkey's gonna stay completely submerged. So we'll stick this in the fridge and then we'll be back tomorrow to smoke it. Okay, we're back. Our turkey has been in the briner bucket for 15 hours, about an hour per pound. We brought it out this morning, dried it out a little bit and put it in a prep tub, and now we're getting ready to make the injection mixture. So this is a recipe from Chef Tom on atbbq.com. We're gonna try it his way. The recipe is 1 part butter to 1 part wildflower honey with some chipotle peppers blended in there. So I doubled up his recipe because we have a fairly sizable turkey here. So I have 1 cup of pre-melted butter, 1 cup of honey, and we're gonna add 2 or 3 of these chipotle peppers to make it a little bit on the spicier side, and then a little bit of the sauce. All right, so I'm gonna get the immersion blender down to the bottom and kind of pin the peppers and just start it gently. All right. And now there's a little bit of solids left in this, so we're gonna run it through a strainer to get rid of some of that. So we've got that nicely strained. We've got 2 cups, which again is double the recipe, but in his video it looked like he was running short a little bit. I wanted to make sure we have some extra. And we're gonna set aside a little bit of that extra in a separate Pyrex, which we're gonna use for glazing at the very end. So I'll just put maybe a half a cup. So we've got the pistol grip type injector, which they sell on the website with a little kit if you want to get that. I happen to already have one, so I just bought the ingredients. And it's got a bunch of different settings, 1 through 5, for how much volume you inject. I'm gonna go with 3, so we get little small pockets, but not, you know, huge reservoirs of honey butter in one spot. The other thing, word to the wise, make sure you lubricate this little gasket or this is very hard to use. So before we assembled it, I just put a tiny spritz of cooking spray on it, and now it slides very nicely. I'm gonna start with the wings and just get that out of the way. I'll just do a little bit in there. Get this other leg. And start working on the breasts a little bit. Okay, so our injection's all done and we're still in the prep tub. I'm gonna start putting the seasoning on it. This is a Cattleman's Grill Roadhouse. It's actually a steak and beef rub, which seems like a strange thing to put on turkey, but obviously with the honey chipotle, we're going for kind of a more robust flavor. So on the back side of the turkey, it's kind of freaky to me. Like when you look at this, it looks like a scene from Aliens when the back side of it's laid out spatchcock, like that little thing that gets on your face. So soon enough, we're gonna flip it over and it'll look better. But the back side's the best way to get the thighs. So I like to do the exposed thigh meat from the back. Now we'll get a little bit on the inside of the thighs. And wherever there's exposed meat on the sides of the breast here, I might hit that a little bit from the back. But right here where it's all bones that are later gonna get discarded, I don't really waste seasoning on that because we're not gonna eat that part. So where I see exposed meat on the wings and breasts, I'll just hit that a little bit. We'll flip it over. So now we're gonna get the breasts from the front. And now I'll put a little bit of seasoning on the skin on the outside. All right, with that, we are done, injected, seasoned, and now we're gonna transfer it over to a roasting pan and go put it on the smoker. Okay, our turkey's been on the smoker for about 2 hours, and we are right around 155, which is a good temp to finish up at. For today's cook, I tried the Traeger turkey blend pellets. You don't have to get a turkey blend per se. I've done it with just plain pecan or something like that in the past with good results. I just wanted to give this one a try. It says it's maple, hickory, and a hint of rosemary, so make of that what you will. And the other reason I like to use the Traeger for this one is the firebox is right in the middle, so the heat's coming up on both sides symmetrically, so there's no need to go in and rotate the bird around. So that's why I like the Traeger for this cook. The other thing with the turkey blend pellets, they give you a little brine kit, which I've tried once in the past and it was pretty good. We didn't use that for today's cook. We went with Chef Tom's recipe, but hopefully the pellets are good for us. So now for our last step, I have a little bit of the injection material that we saved, which also is going to be our glaze. So I'm going to pull it out and get glazing. So you'll notice the thighs have gone missing since we put it in. I had probes in both, and the dark meat seemed to finish quite a bit earlier than the white meat. We were up in the 180s on the thighs already, so in the interest of not burning them, I reached in with a knife and sliced those off and set them aside. So those are already resting, and now we're just gonna get a little bit of glaze on the white meat and let it tack up a little bit, and then we'll be done. All right, so we've got a nice coating of the glaze on there. And now I'm just gonna slide this back in, just give it 3 or 4 minutes just to tack up a little bit in the heat. And then we'll take it inside and rest it and we'll be ready to carve. The turkey's resting, getting ready to carve. One thing I noticed with this technique, which is a first for me, is that the dark meat finished much sooner than the white, which is kind of unusual. Usually you want the dark meat to be about 20 degrees hotter than the white, so finishing in the mid 180s instead of the mid 160s. And in the past when I've cooked it, that's kind of happened on its own. But today I noticed the thigh temperature was in the mid 180s well before the breast was done. So I just sneaked in there with a knife and separated the thighs and pulled those out separately. So I've just put them back together just to show the finished product. But I think it's probably a good idea to separately monitor the temp in the thighs and the breast to make sure you don't over or undercook one or the other. So now it's all done. We've got our glaze on there and it's resting. We're gonna go ahead and carve it up. And also I did save the drippings from that roasting pan that we were on. We got a yield of about 2 cups. So you could use that to make gravy if you want, or it might be nice to just drizzle a little bit of that on the slices on the serving platter right before we go on the table. So I was kind of impressed that we were able to get 2 cups just off of that shallow cookie sheet that we used as a roasting pan. It worked out pretty nicely and managed to not overflow it. So we're gonna go ahead and carve this up and give it a taste. All right, we're all done. The bird's been carved up and I'm gonna use some of that juice that I saved from the pan to kind of drizzle over it. I had a little taste already and it's definitely not dry, but nonetheless, kind of a last little flourish of just drizzling this before serving will not hurt. Make it look kind of extra juicy and keep it from drying out on the table. And I got a nice yield of juices off that pan, so we could easily drizzle this and still have some for gravy if you wanted to make a gravy out of it. All right, I'm gonna try a little piece of the dark meat here, some of the skin on it, see how that came out. Very tender, very juicy. And I love the flavor. The honey butter and chipotle is amazing. It's not hot spicy, it's got just the tiniest little kick from the chipotle, but mostly just the nice honey butter flavor. This is a winner. I have to give Chef Tom full points for that recipe. I really enjoyed it. My kind of takeaways from his technique would be, number one, make twice as much of the injection material as he recommends. We used almost all of it, and I'm glad I had that double batch. And the other thing too, I would definitely check the temperature in the white meat and the dark meat separately. Again, I had to cut those thighs off early because they were at risk of overcooking. That's the first time I've done it on a cookie sheet like that, so that may have something to do with the cooking time. So we'll definitely check them individually, but otherwise I think a great recipe, and I'm definitely glad I tried it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Sawbones videos, and have a happy Thanksgiving.